welcome to this video. I kind of just wanted to do a video where I'm talking through my process and how my brain works when doing buildings. Towns are slightly different, but they kind of have the same process when it comes to building each building of a town. But I wanted to do a small, quick little build. And the first thing I always start with the square shapes if I have any square shapes in my buildings. I feel like most of my buildings have the major part of them being more rectangular, with the circle towers being accent shapes. But when playing, I always overthink the sizing and where they should be, but I'll try and keep it towards the middle today. I think layering is super neat in this game because you have no like spots where you can't place it other than like just going over the demo line, or windows being in very specific spots where you're just not able to place it. Building wise, you can place it anywhere you want and you can shape it to however. So layering in Tiny Glade is one of my favorite things about this game, because you can add so much dimension within your builds. I am a sucker for dimension, and I try to add as much dimension. Like, often I will just place like a T part, or even just like something symmetrical, but then the back starts like feeling really bland and out of place like that. So I always try to break it up in some sort of way. Also, I get super inspired by fantasy, and a lot of inspiration I look at is layered stuff. But for example, I'm doing a small little layering thing here where I want the bottom of the building to be slightly skinnier than the second floor. I feel like that adds a really cute touch. Actually, I might shrink this a little. All in all. And I try to make it as even as I can. Always take your time with it is just something I can always state, is taking your time is really useful. You don't need to rush for anything. But this in of itself is an example of a very basic layered shape, because there's a bump out. So I don't know exactly where I'm going with this. I kind of want to raise it just a little. I want there to be an opening here. So I think when it comes to figuring out the shapes, trying to figure out exactly what you're looking for. Like, I know that I want a platform leading into a door here, but I kind of want it to be raised a little. Since the platform can only go to this height and a door is to be placed, I want it to be higher than this door, which means I have to raise this whole thing very slightly so I can get the shape that I'm looking for. Even this in of itself, I think if it were to be raised ever so slightly, because I kind of want more of a step into using the stairs. I like the look of that more. And then the door fits a lot nicer there than if it was just that small. So we'll just leave it for that. I'll add the door later. So I know that I want steps there, and I want a flat surface here. So just along here, I'm going to put a second one of these, and shrink it down in hopes to get rid of these little shapes. This takes a little bit of finicking around with, but I just always like how it looks myself. And if I want like almost like a little handle case going around, I'll just draw a wall myself and reshape it or cut it to have like even surfaces. That's a later problem. I always tend to do that later when I'm adding last minute details. Next, I kind of want this to come out a little bit. So I'm going to add a skinnier side piece. I tend to look at a lot of inspiration before I do any sorts of builds, but I tend to mix a lot of my inspirations together. I don't do anything just straight off by itself. What if I do something like this? I like how this looks in of itself, but this back part looks very plain. So I tend to either fix it by having just a bigger like side piece that's taller. Tend to stack this one a little bit, and I don't know how I feel about that actually. It feels very off-putting. I don't know what I'm doing today. I kind of just wanted to build something. I want the main part of this build to be this one. So within that prospect, this should actually be smaller, because this is the main focus. So if we keep this build in the main focus, we should resize this bit to fit within that. And we can still have this like little layered look happening. Let's bring it in just a tad bit more, and maybe just a little bit taller. As such. That way, this puts more emphasis on this bit rather than this side little piece. Let's see. Since this is feeling very flat on this one side, even though I have like a couple bump outs, having a shape here is going to help add a little bit of dimension into it. So I'm gonna add a small little tower bit, honestly even a little thinner, because I do want the main biggest size to be this. So if this is bigger, it brings the view of this main shape out of your mind a little bit less. So that tends to break it up. In my opinion though, having the spirals in the background make more sense, and breaking it up with a rectangular bit tends to just, my eyes prefer it when I do such a thing. So I'm gonna have it layered here, and I have it out just a little bit, and that kind of breaks up this front bit just a little bit more. Okay, this feels too thick for my liking. I fiddle around with it a little bit too much, but there we go. And then this backside has a little bit of shaping, but let's see what else we can add just for shape wise. Whether or not that is just another piece to the roof. Oh, actually, what if we flip it like that? I don't know if this is the best build to, I feel like I should have prepared something. But here I am, completely unprepared. I don't know how far. Oh! This feels like one giant spot now. Because I made this one bigger, I'm now going to have to change the size of the rest of these, so that way it feels more cohesive to be looking at in of itself. So this one can probably still be a little bit smaller. This can be shrunk a tad, and then we'll do something like that. And that feels like the shape fits a lot more than when it was smaller, just like here. Or with it looking like this part felt too small and less cohesive. Rather than just this. I actually feel a lot more confident about how it's coming out now. Is I'll add a small little balcony because I feel like this spot can be broken up by this front bit by just adding a small balcony part. That kind of breaks that up a little bit more, and now we have a little balcony piece. So that's kind of fun. I feel like it's out too far. I kind of want it to be out, protruding less than this side bit here. So I'll just shrink it in just a little bit, and I'll probably pull this out a tad bit more. So that's kind of how my shaping process works. Let's take a look at the back. It feels very blockish. Like there's not a whole lot going on this side. But we'll probably just break it up by adding another rectangle that is slightly thicker. Kind of similar to the other side. But let's see how this feels. Oh, that looks really wrong. Yeah, we fix that here. Because of this T-point, it looks better on the eyes if you have cross sections hidden through the middle. Of course, you don't have to listen to that. You can do whatever feels most right to you as a builder. But just whenever I look at things, I like things to be very much in the center and crossing in very specific points rather than it being uneven. So that is that, and then I'll probably just have a small little protruding bit here. I love just building upon each things, having protruding little out places. Whether or not they fit or belong is another question. Even just a little bit tends to add that little pop of detail I always like looking at. And since the gap here is a little bit thicker than the gap in between here, I'll just slightly increase it because I want it to be a little bit bigger anyways. So that is kind of the main shape I'm looking at. I want there to be a chimney, and we don't have chimneys in this game, in the demo at least. So you can always make a chimney by making a wall, or at least this is how we've always done it in the demo, and just increasing the height of said wall. That's as tall as that is gonna go, so it's a little short, but it makes sense. I kind of like it in that spot. So that's kind of the detailing on this main building that we have. We have only one circular bit, which is kind of throwing it off just a little bit. So I'm going to add one more, and I'm just going to add it maybe to this side where this protrudes a little bit. I feel like that could make a bit of sense. We bring this in just a tad. And have it even, like so. It kind of looks like we can try to make it a little cohesive. Something like that. There we go. Let's increase this height. I like the look of that. Because I want a little bit more height here. Now that I look at it, the height line feels a little bit much, and I'm not able to increase this anymore. I'll just do a simple little technique of lowering this bit down, and inside the middle here, we'll just make another circle and increase the height to where we want it to be. See, that's a bit too tall, but even just there helps just fill that up a little bit more. And this size needs to be a little bit bigger. Okay. You increase it just a little bit more, or increase the bottom bit just a little bit more, you'll add another dimension within just a basic tower shape. But I kind of like it having it even today, so I won't be doing that. But just in case you wanted an extra set of dimension within a flat surface, that is something you can do just to pop out. So this is the main shape of the building. It doesn't take too long to build. If I'm feeling really inspired and I planned it out, sometimes I'll draw what I want to build on a sheet of paper or just digitally online. And it's not like it's a good drawing or anything. I'll just frame out some places and combine like inspiration pics. Or I'll have inspiration pulled up on my phone, but right now my phone is charging. It's kind of dead, so I can't do that. But since this is the main shape, the next thing I'll do is I'll add some details with the walls. I want there to be a little guardrail within this spot here. So I'll just draw that in. I don't like how uneven the brick wall looks from here. So something that I tend to do, and you can also tend to do, is protruding out. I like how you're able to move the walls now. When I first played the demo back in July, you weren't able to do that, and the amount of times I had to erase a wall and redraw it was immense. But taking this, if you break them into smaller sections, I tend to do about 2 bricks before I cut, it will even out the top. And I think it looks more cohesive, especially when I'm just trying to do things like this. And just having more cohesive brick lining. I like the look of it, but I feel like in this build it doesn't fit as well as having a straight line does. I feel like that is a little bit tall. No, that's actually fine. I'll always change the colors later. And then within the stairs itself, if I just draw on some stairs, I'll either add another guardrail to the side here, or sometimes I won't. It depends how much I want to do it. But today, I'll add a small little ramp. Next up, I'm gonna just try and add a little bit of wall detailing. Since there is a chimney here, I'm gonna add the outside of a chimney, and I'll do that using bricks itself. So I'll build up like a little bit of a brick wall here. This is where the rustic kind of feel can fit in a little bit more, but I'll also just add in tinier bits and kind of fill in this in of itself. Really just kind of building up a little chimney look. I'm gonna move this over slightly so that way it lines up with the outside bit of the chimney. Okay. Let's go ahead and add some windows. I can't wait to have access to these stuff. I love adding windows, and I love filling up this space. I tend to overfill, I feel like, but I love making things look busier than it is. And side note, if you don't know this, when you're placing windows and you want them to be close but not connect, If you hit control, it'll just place a second window without automatically connecting. So if you just want to do something like this per se, without it all connecting, you can do so without it. If you start moving it, it'll try to connect, so you have to continuously hold down the control button. One of my favorite things I do when it comes to towers is having windows go completely around it, but I feel like that does not fit the vibe of this building today, so I will just add some windows in a line. And when it comes to these last bits, I do use the middles to indicate different floors just for my own mental brain's sake, but I love having one connected to the shingled roofs when it comes to these top bits. Can I fit a double? The answer is no, but sometimes within small things like this, I think it is cute adding such a technique of putting two on the side, and if it's just near enough, holding control, because in that way it won't try to snap, and holding control and dragging it in between the middles. It kind of looks then like it's cohesive, except this needs to be for just a tad. And then figuring out exactly where I want it to be height-wise. The window itself just might be a little broken there today. I haven't had too many issues in the past, but maybe if I de-size this just a tad, I might have to do what I didn't want to do just so I can have a window. And the thing is, I'll do. But I like the look of that. It's broken up like this. I feel like it then makes sense if I did a complete circle around through the top with the shingled roof windows. So I'll go ahead and just place these individually. So that's that. I'm gonna break up this bit by adding some windows here. Like I said, I tend to go overboard with windows, but even just adding windows to the roof, this one's being stubborn. Okay. Even just adding windows to the roof adds an additional layer of texture, and it makes me happy. I love adding layers and textures. Some recoloring this because there's not really any options for the recoloring. I don't really know how much I can say about that, so if I skip forward, that's what. But I will say, when it does come to recoloring, since there are such limited color palettes in the demo version, and we're obviously gonna get a lot more, I like picking out one main color. I feel like white is a good vibe for this, and then having an accent color such as the stone for other bits. So like we'll have a stone down there. I think having stone up here will kind of break that up. So that's kind of how the coloring works. I'm gonna do the coloring for this bit as well, just making it basic stone and then all of the walls, which won't take any time at all. I already went ahead and recolored the windows and the doors as well. When it comes to coloring windows, I tend to match it to the roof color because the wall doesn't have much color, and red and green, it can be a cute combination. It really depends on what I'm trying to build. If I'm building something more out there, then I'll do it, but I feel like having just red or just having green on green or red on red makes it feel a lot more cohesive in of itself. So there is that of the decorations. So that includes some lanterns. I love putting lanterns on buildings, especially on edges like this. So anywhere where there can be an edge for it to be put, or I'll put it by a door, either hanging or if on even like right there could work. I feel like right there actually works better than hanging. So those are some of the things I'll do, or I'll shove them in the corners. But today I'm kind of feeling like this build fits having edged lanterns. I am just heading on into a voiceover because I tend to ramble a lot and I feel like more confident making a little bit of a voiceover. Here there wasn't much I could add on. I kind of just work on the landscaping and I love adding windy paths and having lanterns along those paths and framing them with flowers. I also work on adding like hills and I wanted it to have like a softer kind of valley look. I feel like having rougher mountains adds a different vibe while this feels more cozy and welcoming rather than like a powerful kind of build. And I love decorating with flowers. Landscaping in general is something I still want to really work on, but that takes time with practice and everything. So as this time lapse finishes up, we're gonna get into the day and night cycle, and I hope you guys enjoy the final shots of this build that we worked on together.